Hello, first grade. Welcome to our first real week of distance learning. I'm so excited for all the things that Miss Barclay and I are putting out for you guys to learn for the time that you're going to be on Zern and iRead, the things you're going to get to do maybe with your brothers and sisters or even with your classmates online. So I'm going to start out today with part of a read aloud of this book called Brilliant Ideas from Wonderful Women. So March is still Women's History Month. So we're still talking about different women and the amazing things that they did. And if you got to watch my video that I made earlier last week, you know that I know many amazing women and who have done so many amazing things. And we're going to get to read about some scientists in particular who are women and some of the things that they learned. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you 2 challenges, just like I've done before. You're not required to do them, but maybe you can. Maybe you'll have some fun with them and then send me some pictures of you doing them through Class Dojo. So let's get started. This is Brilliant Ideas from Wonderful Women. The car heater. Margaret A. Wilcox. Born in Chicago in 1838, Margaret was one of the few female mechanical engineers of her time. She loved coming up with inventions that anyone could use that would improve people's lives. At the time, cars had no heating systems. People would shiver and freeze during the long hours they spent behind the wheel. Can you imagine driving around in the middle of the winter with snow all around you and nothing to keep you warm? Brr. Margaret wanted to put an end to the cold conditions drivers had to endure. So in 1893, when Margaret was 34, she devised a mechanism that directed the waste hot air from the vehicle's engine to the driver's seat, keeping them nice and warm. People loved her new invention, but it became a health and safety risk because there was no way of controlling how high the temperature got. As a result, her design could not be used. However, it is the inspiration behind the car heating systems used today. Margaret is also credited with the invention of the first washing machine. So this is a woman who developed heaters for cars. Pretty cool. Let's see the next one. Monopoly, a game for everyone. Elizabeth Maggie Phillips. Born in 1866 in Illinois, USA, Elizabeth Maggie Phillips was an entrepreneur and toy designer. Her family fought against slavery, and Elizabeth was very young when she had to drop out of school so she could help support her family financially. She worked as a stenographer, a writer, a journalist, an actress, and a comedian. At the time, there were no televisions, computers, or video games, and even books were scarce in most households because they were so expensive. People found other ways to entertain themselves and often played board games and cards. Elizabeth invented a game called the Landlord's Game, which would go on to inspire the famous board game Monopoly. Elizabeth designed the game around her political beliefs. She wanted people to see that monopolizing lands and resources was a bad idea, since it meant some people got richer and richer, while others became poorer and poorer. Elizabeth was never properly credited during her lifetime for the role she played in the creation of Monopoly. It wasn't until 40 years after her death that it was uncovered that Elizabeth came up with the idea for the most famous board game of all time. So this was a woman who invented a board game, and it became famous, Monopoly. Maybe you've played it. Maybe you've heard of it. Let's see the next one. Disposable diapers. Marion O'Brien Donovan. Marion O'Brien Donovan was born in 1917 in Indiana. That's where I'm from. That's where I am right now, USA, to a family of inventors. She studied English literature and worked as an editorial assistant at various fashion magazines. When Marion's first daughter was born, diapers were made out of cloth, which meant they had to be washed by hand so they could be used again. And unlike diapers today, they weren't waterproof, so they often leaked onto bed sheets. The poor babies were constantly wet, and their mothers ended up with very sore hands from so much cleaning and scrubbing. What a nightmare. Marion was tired of washing and rewashing the cloth diapers and bedsheets, and it wasn't long before the inventor's blood running through her veins kicked into action. Marion designed a waterproof diaper cover using the same material that parachutes were made from. Marion went on to invent many other things, including dental floss, a hanger that could hold 30 clothes, and a soap dish that drained into the sink. Marion wanted to take her invention a step further and went on to develop a disposable diaper made from nylon that was sold all over the world. Although the idea was not very environmentally friendly, so it wasn't very good for the earth. Mothers rejoiced at the new product. They no longer had to do mounds of laundry, and babies were free from diaper rash and constantly being wet. So this is a woman who saw a problem in her house with her baby and invented something to fix the problem. Oh, this is one you might have seen before, the dishwasher. Josephine Garris Cochrane. Josephine Garris Cochrane was born in 1839 in Ohio, USA, to a wealthy family. As a child, Josephine would sometimes go with her father, a civil engineer, to work, perhaps inspiring her love of mechanics at a young age. Like many wealthy women of her time, once Josephine was married, she gave up her studies and devoted herself to family life and running the household. She organized many events, including cocktail and dinner parties, which always resulted in mounds of dirty plates. There's the mounds of plates, all of which had to be washed by hand at the end of the night. Josephine wondered why nobody invented a machine to do the job, and so she came up with a design herself. Her idea was a copper boiler with a wheel in it. The dirty dishes and glasses were placed on a type of shelf, and jets of hot water sprayed through the wheel at them. And it worked! After Josephine's husband died, she became an inventor. Her dishwasher's invention was not the first, but she was the first to have the idea of marketing her invention to every home, restaurant, and hotel that needed it. So there's Josephine with all her dishes, and then this is her dishwasher invention right there. So maybe you guys have a dishwasher at home. You can thank Josephine Cochrane. This is domestic surveillance system. Marie Van Britten Brown. Born in 1922, Marie was an African-American nurse and inventor. She lived all her life in the Queens borough of New York City with her husband, Albert Brown, an electrical technician. In the late 1960s, Queens could be a dangerous neighborhood. High crime rates, coupled with the fact that the police could not always arrive on time when needed, meant that people in the area often felt unsafe in their own homes. Marie and Albert worked different hours than each other, which meant that Marie was often left alone at home. To feel safer when home alone, Marie and her husband devised a system to identify anyone who knocked on their front door. At the time, patenting and marketing invention as a woman was not easy. It was even more difficult trying to do this as a black woman. Sadly, Marie and her husband were unsuccessful in marketing their surveillance system, but many others made their fortune later, inspired by her patent. The invention was a set of 4 peepholes, a camera, and a microphone, all of which were placed in the main door of the house. The camera could move up and down and look out through the peephole, and anything the camera picked up was then fed back to the television monitor, allowing Brown to see who was outside her house without ever having to open the door. The system also included 2 buttons. One opened the door to allow the person outside in, and one triggered an alarm to alert the neighbors that you were in danger. So she created this system to keep her house safe, where she could use a camera and see on her TV who was outside her door. That's pretty cool. Something that nobody had thought about before. Let's see. Just 2 more. Kevlar. Stephanie Kwolek. Stephanie Kwolek was a chemist born in Pennsylvania, USA in 1923 to a family of Polish immigrants. Stephanie researched compounds called polymers, which are long chains of small molecules called monomers. These molecules can be natural, such as silk, or synthetic, such as polyethylene. In 1965, Stephanie created an opaque liquid substance. Everyone thought that she had made a mistake. Up until that point, any substances that had been created had been transparent, so you could see through them. Nobody had seen anything like it before. But Stephanie didn't give up on her discovery and continued researching and working on her new material until that substance was converted into a super resistant, flexible, and lightweight fiber with hundreds of uses. They named it Kevlar. Kevlar is a material as strong as steel and light as feather. It is used to make tennis rackets, skis, rope, fireman helmets, satellites, tires, space rockets, bulletproof vests, and lots of other things. The discovery of this material didn't only improve lives, it saved them. So everyone thought that she'd made a mistake, but she actually discovered something that helped keep people safe. Last one, this is sea flares. 1859, Martha Costin. Martha Costin was born in 1826 in Baltimore, USA. When she was 16 years old, she ran away from home and secretly married Benjamin Franklin Costin, a promising inventor. Their love story was something like the movies. Benjamin was actually the one who had the initial idea for the sea flares. However, just before he could develop the idea, he died. Martha was left a widow at just 21 years old, with 3 small children to look after. But thanks to her perseverance, she managed to develop and patent the invention. In order to develop Benjamin's designs for the sea flare, Martha disguised herself as a man. This enabled her to contact pyrotechnicians, so people who work with fire and design things that work with fire, and convince them to manufacture her ideas. They would never have taken her seriously if they'd known she was a woman. Radios did not exist at the time, and so sea flares were vital for sea captains and sailors. They were used as a means of communication between ships. The code they used was based on 3 colors, white, red, and green, a language that all sailors knew. They're still the most useful way to locate boats at sea. So if you were trying to find a boat, you would shoot off this rocket, and you could see the rocket in the sky, kind of like a firework, and then they would know where the boats were without having to call them on the phone, because they couldn't do that back then. So that was half of these brilliant ideas from Wonderful Women. I'm going to finish the other half tomorrow, but here are my challenges for you. Number 1, an amazing way to practice your scientific skills is through a website called code.org. So code, C-O-D-E. And coding is something that people who create computers have to do, and scientists who work with computers. And there's tons of fun games, and you can learn how to code while you're at home and become a scientist like that. So that's the first one. The second one is, challenge number 2, is to play a game with your family or a game with whoever you're at home with right now. So just like one of the women invented the game Monopoly, you guys can, if you have Monopoly, you could play Monopoly, or you could play another game with your family, and then you could honor these women who created amazing things for us to do and have some fun with your family while you're at home. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. I will be making a couple more videos for later today. See ya!